Okay, we're here today on a special Arizona Drag Racing Legends with Ruth Tice. Ruth Tice, along with her husband Jim, were the brain trust and the leading force of the American Hot Rod Association. Many of the local Arizona racers, that's what we grew up with. We definitely remember the Beeline Dragway and Tucson Dragway, but they were basically one of the best associations out there. Did so much for sportsman racing. They put on a good show, and we had a good time with it. And we're lucky to have Ruth here. We're attending the Arizona Drag Race reunion at Radford Racing School today, and so they're gracious enough to let us use their conference room. So if it looks a little bit different in the background, it probably looks better than what we normally do. So we're happy that Ruth, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we're so excited to have you here. So where you been all our life? We're excited that you made it to Arizona for this event. It's part of the reunion. AHRA, like I said, it's definitely a big part of what we did.
Right.
I got a couple questions to ask you about you.
Okay.
Before you met Jim,
right.
were you a car girl at all?
Yes.
Tell me about what you did. Tell me about your cars.
Oh, well, I was born and reared in Gallatin, Missouri.
Okay.
And I went to Northwest Missouri State College. But in high school, I only liked the boys with hot cars. My favorite thing about high school was music. I was really into music, but the boys had to have a hot car.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I always liked that. Yeah.
You remember when did you start driving? When you remember what your first car was?
Oh, my first car was an MG Midget.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah. Nice car.
And it zipped around and got you where you want to go.
Yes.
People knew it was you in the car.
Yes. And then after marrying Jim, I had a different car every year.
You took into that. So
yeah.
Let's move forward. You're into cars. So anything related to cars, you're wide open. How did you meet Jim?
How did I meet Jim? This is interesting. I had a girlfriend who worked at WHB Radio in Kansas City. And she called me one day and said, "You've got to get down here." They had a midnight talk show. She said, "We've got the AHRA president, Jim Tice, and Art Arfons driving the Green Monster, and you've got to come down." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I'll come down and meet them." So that's where I met Jim. And he said, "Well, come out to the drag races tomorrow." And I said, "Okay." So I went to the races and, spent the day with him. And then it was my birthday in about maybe 4 or 5 days. And when I came home, there were 24 red roses at my door. So he had me at roses, and we were married June the 19th. So I only knew him 4 weeks.
Wow. He was quite the promoter.
Yeah.
Early on, you saw that he was a promoter.
He was. I just fell for him, and we were married, and it lasted 20-some years.
That's those are great stories. So you're in. He was in the Kansas City area.
Yes.
And so we know that AHRA basically was headquartered in that area.
Right.
So the first AHRA official, how did the association grow as far as track count? I mean, was it when you met him, there were several tracks already, or did you?
A few. I believe there were just a few in '62, and we were married in June, and then the first race was August, which was Green Valley Raceway. And we drove down to Texas. And I think it was Jim's first big nationals. And we were just hit with hundreds of race cars poured in the drag strip, and spectators. We were overwhelmed. and it was Bill McClure and Dorothy McClure were the owners of Green Valley Raceway. And it turned into a huge event, you know, which I don't think it was just the AHRA board of directors to run it.
So it was quite a nice problem to have.
Yes, it was. And Don Garlitz was the president of AHRA before Jim.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Don was president. Jim was secretary. And Don said, I don't have time for this paperwork and newspapers and dates for races. And he told Jim, he said, do you want it? And so Jim took it over, said, I'll be the president. So
that's how that's great. I did not know that.
Right.
Definitely, Don Garlitz is still with us today. I have the pleasure of seeing him every year at the SEMA show in Las Vegas and
yes,
chatting with him a little bit. But
he's a wonderful guy. I've known him.
He is I can like, if you were interviewing me about my thoughts of Don Garlitz, it would go on for hours.
Right.
Okay, I've seen him do some wonderful things for people. Pick out some in the crowd that probably probably had special needs.
Right.
And blank everybody out and spend an hour talking to this person.
Yes.
There's all sorts of wonderful things about him, and we're very blessed to have him. And he was the mainstay billing of AHRA. I mean, he definitely still ran the races, and he was there, and it was basically his association as a top fuel racer. I mean, he owned it.
Jim were very close. They talked a lot and very close, very good friends.
So Green Valley is also, I never had a chance to go to Green Valley, but a lot of people from Arizona would go there.
Right.
They love racing in Green Valley. I mean, it was geographically, it was a good location, draw a lot of people in from all over the country.
Yes. We had some big races there, And it was, I believe it was at the 62 Nationals that at the end of the race, they were going to have a meeting, the AHRA meeting, the board of directors and members. So all the members sat in the bleachers. And Jim talked to them, and he was the president, but he wanted to take it farther than what they had, just a hot rod club. And so AHRA, at that time, they had a debt of $44,000. And
significant at that time, a lot of money.
Yes. And Jim said, if you'll let me take it and run it like a business, I'll pay off the $44,000 debt and we'll run it like a business. And he took a vote, and they all voted and said yes, and that's how that started. That's how it started. That's how he became the owner, basically.
He once he had it, he knew that, okay, now we need to get some more tracks. We need to get some more. We need to grow this.
Right.
And so he had a vision of what he wanted to do. He was competing in NHRA, but he really wasn't, because NHRA still at that time, they're still in a growth state.
Right.
They had a little bit of a head start on the AHRA, and there definitely some diehard areas of NHRA, but it seemed like in the Midwest, people were wide open for to say this wanted to race.
Right.
And they wanted to make it simple.
Right.
So we know that AHRA was great for sportsman racers because they had so many classes that people's cars could fit into.
Right.
It was just like, it wasn't like, this really specific tie down lockdown. And, in my honest opinion, that was one of the strengths of AHRA, was sportsman friendly.
Yes. That was a good thing that they did with all those classes. And some people joked about it, but it wasn't a joke.
Well, it wasn't a joke to the racers.
No, they loved it.
That's right. AHRA, I saw this many times at Beeline Dragway. Somebody come up that probably hadn't raced all year long, but they wanted to go to the Nationals. Right. They'd find a spot for that guy to race.
That's right.
And they go out and make a pass. They attack the car, go out and make a pass, and we'll pick a class for you.
Right.
And they look at the car and they pick a class the person can be most competitive in. And
Right.
NHRA was more cut and dry. You had to be this, this, and this, and which is, in all respect, that was another way of doing it. But
Right.
I believe AHRA was built on the backs of the sportsman racers.
I do too.
This is the loyalty and support that
Yeah.
they gave them. So of interest, Arizona. How did Beeline come into effect? Give us some background on that.
Okay. Well, it was probably in 62 also. There was a lot going on in 62. Jim Rogers called the office and talked to Jim and said, I want to build a drag strip. And he's a 20-year-old kid in college. But Jim didn't poo-poo that, or, he took it very seriously. And then we came to Phoenix and talked to Jim Rogers and his dad. I think it was Dan Rogers. And he was a builder, built the Phoenix Zoo. And so we had all the ideas. Jim was going to lay it out with Jim Tice, design it. And then his dad was big in building. So then it's like, where did we put this? Where's the land for this drag strip? And Jim Rogers suggested the Salt River, Pima, Maricopa County Reservation. So that meant we talked to the Indians and the Indian Tribal Council and made a proposal, Jim Rogers and Jim Tice. And we asked for a 10-year lease on the reservation, and they granted it. They gave it to us. They had a lot of faith in Jim Tice and Jim Rogers.
The interesting thing about that whole development is that until that time, the local tribal communities really didn't do anything of leasing land or anything off other than reservation or their own residents living on it, and then whatever farming and stuff they did on it. So
right.
Beeline was the cutting edge of what you see now of all the pavilions and the casinos out there, and not only in that on the Pima, but the Gila River community where this Radford and Firebird Raceway are located, another Indian community that embraced bringing outside development to help their communities as well. It benefited the community a whole bunch by them being there.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't realize, I just realized after Tom told me that we were the first people, first persons or whatever that they would give a lease to. And that was 62 years ago.
That's a big deal. It was really a big deal.
Big deal. Right.
So the hands are shaking and everybody signed the leases and everything's going on. The first race at Beeline was in 63 or 4? 63.
63.
We have Tom Sands is here with us, and when Ruth and I can't remember the actual details, we have Tom as our backup. So thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
It's 1963. So what was that first event like? Do you remember?
Fabulous. That's one of the best races that I remember. It was the weather, the sunshine, and the cars were lined up on Beeline Highway for miles. And we had to get in early, to get ahead of them, open the gates and get them in. And then the cars started coming in, and they were from every state. All the racers were coming in, and what impressed me was the Ram Chargers pulled in. Big trucks, big deal to have the Ram Chargers. And then Ford would pull in with Phil Bonner.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And Grumpy Jenkins pulled in. And it was just exciting. And I think it was the most important race because of factories. The factories were there to try out the cars.
Right.
And
it served The spectators loved it because it was a big race and they got to see these names. But the
Right.
racers, the ones that were going to race the NHRA circuit as well, it was a
Right.
great warm up for Pomona.
Right, that's right. And Jim was very smart to pick that date because he knew that they were on their way to Pomona. They might as well stop.
Yes, it worked out great.
And the racers loved Arizona. They loved Scottsdale, Phoenix, the warm weather. So they came every year. It just grew from that.
So Beeline was definitely in one of the major facilities in the AHRA cap of the family.
Yes.
What other tracks were there? Kansas City, was that?
Kansas City, we had Kansas City. And then Tulsa became the Spring Nationals. And Phoenix was the Winter Nationals, the Spring Nationals. I believe the Summer Nationals were Kansas City. And then we hit Green Valley in August. So that's how we started building them, just one national event at a time.
So by the time you went to Green Valley, you did all those other events.
Yes.
And in Green Valley for the second time, you probably developed even a greater following.
Right. Right.
You really had something going.
More, yeah. And then for points, then we started the point system. So they wanted to get points at all the races. So
there's so many great. I've got memories, but this is also you. And what are some of your with the AHRA? What are some? You have anything you'd like to share with us that makes you smile to think about this day? And
oh,
how did we ever survive that?
how did we ever survive it? I know there were days when we first went to Green Valley. I thought, what have I gotten myself into? It was like the wild, wild west. It was new and emotions and all these cars coming in and our crew. We had a good crew. But it just grew from there and got better and better. But had some great stories like Evel Knievel called Jim and said, I'm going to jump the Snake River, was it?
Yes.
I'm going to jump, but I need $100,000 to jump. That's my budget or my cost. And he said, can you book me into some races? So Jim booked 4 races. And we paid him $25,000 a race. And he made it to the Snake River, jumped in the river, but not over.
That's a slight miscalculation, but at least he did it.
He did it.
Yeah.
He did what he said.
He was insane. I think he lived out his years up in New River, Arizona. Had a big house up there.
Really?
Oh yeah, but he was like, as a kid, I was infatuated by him. He had all the 12. I think it's one of the first big motorsports type entities that had the action figures.
Yes.
Had the Evel Knievel stunt kits, the motorcycle.
Yeah.
And what that do? That helped grow the sport. That helped grow all sorts of motorsports.
Right. My daughter had his motorcycle and the little Evel Knievel, and she jumped him all the time and played with him. But the story is in Tulsa, Jim had gone ahead. He was in Tulsa, and with all the press, had the press out there. Evel Knievel's coming. And Jim called me and said, where's Evel Knievel? And I said, well, his plane's coming into Kansas City. He's just coming in now. Jim said, I want him now, right now. And I'm, okay. So I rented a Learjet and got him off the plane, got him on the Learjet. And we were there in, 15 minutes. And so the jet's flying around the track, and the announcer's going, Evel Knievel's here, and like it was Evel's jet.
Build the fervor. Get everybody all excited. About it. Oh,
yeah. And the then later on, Jim said, what did you do? You rented a Learjet. You're going to have to pay for it. You wanted him, you got him. I'll pay for it. Yeah.
Yeah, loan me some money.
yeah. I'll pay it out of the
Yeah.
checking account, So that was interesting. That was quite interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure you have plenty of stories about the different, a lot of demand, something about going to Mexico
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't forget that. I've got that.
We have a lot of, and because we have a lot of, being situated in Arizona, we have a lot of racers from Mexico that still come up here and race.
Really?
Because they got interested in drag racing and what went on. I'm sure it's from the early days of the U.S. racers going down there to race.
That must have been in 1972. Do you remember, Tom? I know it was 71 or 72. And I don't know how it all started. Someone from Mexico came to the office, AHRA office, and wanted to know if we could come to Mexico City and put on a drag race. So Jim went for it. He thought, it was a good idea. But you have to have a Mexican partner in Mexico to do business. So our partner was the president of the law school at the University of Mexico. Who better for a partner? And we flew into the race, and they gave us a tour of the university, the law school, threw a big party for us that night, big fancy party, and we were treated wonderfully. But the racers were trying to get across the border with nitro, and they were told, no, you can't bring in your gas, you buy our gas. So that was a little problem we had to solve. But we had everyone there. We had Mickey Thompson, Don Garlitz, we had all the top racers. Art Scholes, the aerobatic airplane.
The Chipmunk.
Yep. He was there flying, and the jumping bean, Will Stander was there. Everybody. And we put on a terrific show, great show.
But the place was packed.
Packed. It was packed. But when you look down the tower, out of the tower window and look down the track, it was lined with, I don't know if they were policemen or
federales, yeah.
But they had rifles and bayonets every so many feet on both sides of the track. Well, we'd never seen that before, and it was kind of scary, but the race was successful. We gave them a heck of a show. Then come Monday morning, we always get together with the track operator and divvy up the money so we can pay the racers and pay everybody. Well, we couldn't find the money. The tickets were sold out of booths all over Mexico City. And they were apparently sold, it was sold by the government. They wouldn't let us handle the money, because that was my job at each race, to watch the money. Well, I never saw the money. And we started searching for it, getting a little vocal. And the message came back to Jim and I at the hotel: it would be best if you leave the country. And so I grabbed my suitcase, and Jim said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm leaving. Don't tell me once to leave the country. I'm gone." And we ended up leaving, no money, and Jim paid all the racers. He paid all the guaranteed show racers that he brought in.
That's a shame.
And we left. It was a shame. It could have been something great, you know. But
That I'm speechless. I just never thought of, but then I'm not surprised. But the times that were going on back then, and
right,
and you thought it was, you had the best partners and such, and the
right,
government down there says to do something. I've worked for several manufacturing companies that had manufacturing plants there, so I'm kind of aware of the things that can pop up, that you're not preparing for, and their
Yeah.
rules are their rules, and you really, when you think you did when they said I would leave, I think you probably did the best thing.
right. And Bill McClure was with us from Green Valley,
Mm-hmm.
and he in Tarrant County he had a badge. He was like an honorary sheriff. And so he called back to the United States and talked to the sheriff and told him what was going on. And the sheriff advised us to leave. Just leave, get out of there.
Well, the intentions were good,
Yeah.
but the thing is, you got a lot of fans,
Yes.
and they were fans of drag racing.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you had to take care of that big chunk of payout yourself, but
yeah.
in the big picture thing for drag racing, it's another AHRA first. The things that they did
Right.
to help promote the racers and
Right.
and get people interested in it. I
Right.
remember so many great stories about Beeline. The first things I ever saw were there. I knew there was an AHRA, but I didn't care. The nice thing about the Winter Nationals at Beeline Dragway, when NHRA Pro Stock finally got going big time, we saw the cars here before
Yes.
the NHRA people did. We saw Grumpy's Vega before it was
Yes.
in Pomona. We saw all there was a lot of testing, there's a lot of things going on, but we saw a lot of cars first year.
Oh, yes. And that was impressive. I think that was kind of the big takeoff for AHRA when the factories all showed up, and we really got involved with the factories.
Well, I know you were supported by a lot of the aftermarket factories. I've worked all my life in the performance aftermarket.
Right.
The people I know, Linda Vaughn's still a good friend of mine, and she was there every year with Hearst, and Jack
Yes.
Watson, the Shifty Doctor, and
Yes.
you had support them. The races were there. I mean, they supported what was going on because they saw that it was a real deal.
Right, right. And I swear that I was going from the pit area, crossing over the staging lanes to go to the tower, and the factory guys were there, Chrysler and Ford, and there were some people talking about the wheelbases, and they were looking at these cars, and I swear they said, "That's a funny looking car." So I felt like, I didn't think anything about it then, but then it became the funny car, and NHRA took credit for it. They said it happened at Pomona.
Oh, it's good. It's good. It's a good storyline.
But I thought, I heard that. I know I heard that.
Well, yeah, Mopar showed up with altered the wheelbase to take advantage of the weight shift, and people said, "That's a funny looking car."
That's a funny looking car.
Yes.
And
from now on, we're going to change the narrative. It started here. It was an AHRA Beeline Dragway first.
I always thought it did, and then I heard, well, it started in Pomona, and okay, well.
So if you going back on all those years, and you did a lot of travel, you met a lot of great people. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that your takeaway from it that you feel, that you just maybe brings a smile to your face to think about what you've done?
Well, the thing impressed me about our racers and drag racing was they were from all walks of life. We had attorneys racing, doctors racing, every walk of life, and they all came in together. They worked together, they helped each other, and they just were drag racers at that point. They weren't labeled something else, you know.
One of the things I'm proudest of our sport of drag racing is that long before, you know, the other big racing venue or types like NASCAR and the rest of them said, you know, we need to be more inclusive. Drag racing was inclusive way before.
Yes.
We had, you know, different people of different race. We had female drivers, you know, not as many, but we still had them. It was they were there. If you want to race, there's a place for the race. Some tracks had the powder puff, but some of those ladies got in their car and they raced in the regular bracket. And, you know, I think a lot of the guys' egos, they started the powder puff because they really didn't want to be beat by a woman.
Right.
But they were good enough to do that. And over the years, you know, one of the things I'm so very proud about drag racing in general is just it doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
If you can drive, you can drive.
That's right. And it didn't, if you were rich or poor, it didn't make any difference, that they would help each other and with the, you know, equipment working on the car.
A lot of great stories of racers that over the years that, you know, talk about, you know, that they 2 cars left in the finals and that one car needs help and the guy who's going to race helps the guy out.
Right.
You know, and there's a story I think of the Rain for Rent car in Bakersfield one time where they were running and somebody else needed tires and they need tires for vice versa, and they borrowed tires from another guy and they ended up beating the other guy, and he goes, I gave him the wrong tires or something like that. You know? Yeah. But they did that because
it happened a lot.
It happened.
It really
happened
did.
A whole lot. And
yes.
And I think there were more friendships than rivalries really in drag racing, and even some of the rivalries on the outside looked like a rivalry, but it wasn't. I mean, the big rivalry, of course, that, you know, we saw grow up in front of us was the mongoose, the snake and the mongoose.
Yes.
You know, and it was. And everybody, you know, the big rivalry, but it was, you know, Tommy Kuhn was a great businessman, a great business mind, and you know, he's the one that put all that together. And when another person I had the fortune of meeting away from racing, but got to meet him, and what a beautiful person he was.
He was absolutely a wonderful person. I loved him. I loved Tommy Kuhn.
Well, we have a couple of people are going to be here at our reunion today that are racers from back in the 60s and 70s, and we hope you run into them. And I know that our announcer, Johnny Moda, will want to spend a little bit of time with you to interview you. And we're so blessed and happy that you were able to join us. And, you know, thank you so much. Like I said, you know, we know where the real force of AHRA was.
Yes.
And we're looking at it right now. Okay. We know that.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
God bless you. Happy Easter. And thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.